Okay, so let's start with, last time we had the introduction to financial management. So this time we have the financial statement analysis, the tools and the techniques. So sorry if I'm not going to go through in details the different financial statements because those statements were taken in full details during your college days. And if you took up your pre-MBA, dapat nakuha din yun. Pero dito, lalagyan lang natin ng konting preview. So, yung topic natin again is financial statement analysis, the tools and the techniques. So, these are the objectives, And then we have now the financial statements. So, practically, we have 5 financial statements. So one, you have the statement of financial position, the statement of comprehensive income, the statement of cash flow, the statement of changes in equity, and the notes to the financial statements. So who can tell me what is a statement of financial position? Okay lang ba kung magbukas tayo ng camera lahat? Konti lang naman tayo rito eh. Pwede ba magbukas ng camera? Para alam po na nandyan kayo. No? If it is okay lang, no? Para magkakitaan tayo, ha? So, ayan, no? Para magkakitaan naman tayo. Kasi minsan nasasalubong ko sa school eh. Pinapansin ako. Hindi ko sila pinapansin. Giningitian ko lang sila. Hindi ko man alam, estudyante ko sila. No? And that's not only true in Miriam College but also in other schools, no? Kaya sabi ko, dapat nakikita talaga, no? Kasi nagtuturo din ako sa ibang schools, no? Para makilala ko rin kayo, ha? Okay. So we have this, who can tell me about yung statement of financial position, if you have any idea? Sige, Fatima.
Sir, the statement of financial position or most commonly known sa karamihan is balance sheet pa yung tawag.
Okay, that's correct.
But currently kasi statement of financial position na siya. It composes the detailed summary of the assets, liabilities, and the capital of the company.
Okay, so practically that's the summary, the summary of all the assets, the liabilities, and the equity. Okay, so before it was known as balance sheet, that's correct, but actually some are still using the term balance sheet. Kaya lang when yung Philippine Financial Reporting Standards entered into the scene, they changed the practice, but actually we are still using the balance sheet, kasi sa articles of incorporation natin, we are still using the balance sheet, not actually the statement of financial position. But for reporting purposes, we are now sometimes using the statement of financial position because of the International Financial Reporting Standard, which we adopted, So that's correct, It summarizes all the accounts, under the assets, the liabilities, and the equity. And this practically shows the financial position of the firm, When you say financial position of the firm, we're talking of the liquidity, So when you say liquidity, we're talking of the yung cash position of company, Are they capable of paying the obligations or not? Then in the statement of financial position also, it shows the solvency, So when you see solvency, ito yung capacity naman to pay the long-term obligations. Now, even yung mga market share, price natin, ipinapakita din dito. So that once the investors would like to invest to the company, they can simply look at the statement of financial position. Even the creditors, when they look at for the creditors, they look at the statement of financial position, and then they look at the current assets against the current liabilities, of the company. And from that, they can determine if they can pay the obligations or not. No, in particular, the short term. And then yung titingnan pa yung long-term liabilities, pati yung solvency niyan, tinitingnan na rin, no? Yung long-term liabilities. Because the liabilities can be divided into two, no? Meron tayong tinatawag na current at meron tayong tinatawag na non-current. So when we say current liabilities, we're talking of the short-term obligations. And when we talk of short-term obligations, these are the obligations payable within 1 year. But when we talk of long-term obligations, these are obligations beyond 1 year, no? Then second, we have the statement of comprehensive income, no? Yung comprehensive income natin naman na to, pinapakita yung net income or net loss of the company. So net income or net loss, no? So nandyan yung revenues, nandyan yung expenses, and then of course, the difference, no? If the revenues are greater than the expenses, then it is a net income. But if the expenses are greater than the revenues, then it's a net loss. So it is important to know this net income or net loss so that you can decide, no, what to do with the company. Would you like to close it? Would you like to improve the company? No? So it's important to know the progress of the company. And then you have the statement of cash flow. Now, for the statement of cash flow, practically, sulat natin siguro na konti ito. Sabagay, hindi tayo gagawa nito mga to, okay, mag-alala, no? Kumbaga, na-explain lang natin ulit kasi maraming ganito sa, dito, no? So, yung statement of cash flow natin, practically, we have three activities. No? Pati prototype, nanginginig pa ako eh. So, under the activities, we have three, no? We have three different activities. So, one, you have the operating. Then the other one is financing. And the other one is investing, no? Ang baliktad pa yung investing. So, practically, yan yung natin, part ng statement of cash flow, no? So, yung operating activities, even for the statement of cash flow, practically, it only shows the receipts and the disbursements. So, kaya itong statement of cash flow na to, ito natin lagay na lang. Practically, we are only analyzing the cash inflows and outflows. No? Pag-iwalay na lang natin ulit. Cash inflows and the cash outflows. So, yan lang. Actually, lang ina-analyze natin pagdating dito sa statement of cash flow. No? So, for the cash inflows, we are referring to the receipts. And then, hihilo pa ako, class. And then, when it comes to cash outflow, we are referring to the disbursements. So, everything that we record now from we include, in the statement of cash flow, all of them are just cash, no? Cash lang talaga yan. So, if it is a receivable, if it is a payable, it is not included in the statement of cash flow. So, we only include only transactions that involve cash. Kaya statement of cash flow lang siya. So, lahat lang ng cash movement. Kaya kung halimbawa may binili kang asset, tapos loan notes payable yan, hindi lalabas sa statement of cash flow yan. No? Halimbawa, nag-issue ka ng bonds, for example. Pero ang ginawa pambayad sa iyo supplies, okay, inventory, which is possible, no? Kasi may utang ka siguro sa kumpanya, no? O yung kumpanya may utang pala sa'yo, hindi makapagbayad. So instead, binayaran ka ng bonds. No? Tapos, kapalit ka ng inventory. So in that case, hindi papasok sa statement of cash flow yan. So everything that should be included in the analysis of the statement of cash flow only involves cash. Basta't hindi cash ang ginamit, no? To receive o kaya to pay, no? Hindi papasok sa statement of cash flow. Kaya ang tawag natin lang dito is statement of cash flow, and we're looking only at the cash inflows, which is the receipts, cash outflows, disbursements, no? And then under this statement of cash flow, they have three activities. So ito na nga yun, no? Operating, investing, and financing. And for all of which, ang tinitingnan lang natin dito, yung cash inflow and cash outflow under the operating. Then we have the cash inflows and cash outflow under the investing. And then cash inflow and cash outflow under financing, no? So for the operating, we're talking of the operations of the firm. Now we're talking of the operations of the firm primarily. Then when it comes to investing, no, from the word investing, saan mo nilagay yung pera mo? Yun lang yun, no? Bumili ka ba ng hard asset? Bumili ka ba ng stocks? Bumili ka ba ng bonds? Bumili ka ba ng equipment, ng machine? O ibinenta mo ba yung machine? Ibinenta mo ba yung equipment? Nagbenta ka ba ng bonds? No? Na binili mo, no? So yun practically yung investing na yan. And then when it comes to financing, now we're talking of what are the sources of your money. Kung bawang may project ka, no, under this financing, let's say you have the project, no, meron kang project A. And let's say the amount that you need is 100,000, for example. Ano ginamit mong pera, no, to buy to establish the project A? Is it bonds, no, or is it stocks? Mga ganyan siya, ha? So those are financings. And then, like what I said, no, practically the statement of cash flow, they are analyzing only the movement of cash inflows, cash outflows, and then they are divided into three activities: operating, investing, and financing. Ha? Yan, pasensya na kayo kung medyo hindi ako makapagsalita ng no? Hindi ko pwedeng pwersin ng lalamunan ko, ha? Then you have the statement of changes in equity. Now, for the statement of changes in equity, we are referring to the changes of the position of the stockholders. No? Kaya statement of changes in equity. So, paano naman ginagawa yan? No? Ginagawa natin yan. So, for example, you start with the equity. That's the balance, no? Beginning balance. Sensya na kayo, boring yung part ko, no? Alam niyo, ang gusto kong part yung stocks at saka bonds, eh. Kasi nandyan yung excitement ng financial management, no? Yung investing. Yung sa akin, nasa technical part, eh. Technical part ng financial management. And when we talk of technical part, we are talking of the boring part of financial management. Talagang titignan mo yung financial statements and computations, no? Kaya mas gusto ko ituro sana yung stocks o kaya yung bonds. Diyan marami akong ikukwento. No? Marami akong pwedeng maikwento sa inyo. Ha? So what's happening in the stock market? But if you have any idea or questions about the stock market, you can also ask me. Even if Mr. Kinisio is the one in charge with that, now you can always ask me, no, when it comes to investing. Total part pa rin naman ng finance itong pinag-usapan natin. Ha? So when it comes to investment, pwede kayong magtanong sa akin. So, yun nga, when it comes to statement of changes in equity, we start with the beginning balance. And then you add, no, yung additional investment. Then we also add yung net income. Then we have the total now, no? And then from there, we less the withdrawal or dividends, no? So to end up with the equity ending balance. So practically, ito yung ating statement of cash flow, no? To simplify, to simplify only. Okay? So this is the statement of cash flow natin. And then next one, we have the notes to the financial statements. Now for the notes to the financial statements, the way you presented, no? The way you presented your accounts here in the statement of financial position and the statement of comprehensive income should be clearly identified in number 5. No? So meaning you have different methods. You have different methods, you have different principles on how you prepare the statement of financial position. And then the details are presented also in the notes to the financial statements. Paano sinasabi natin details? So for example, pagdating sa cash, no? Yung cash, marami tayong detalye rin. Yung cash account, for example. So for the cash, you can have the cash in bank. Or you can have the cash on hand. Tapos meron kayong cash, petty cash. No? So ganyan. Paano kung marami pa kayong branches? No, marami pa kayong branches. Ibig sabihin, merong cash in bank. Let's say this is the mother account, ano? Paano kung meron kayong mga branches? So you have to identify, no, yung cash nila for that particular branch. So maybe you can use the cash in bank A, di ba? Ganyan. Cash in bank, cash on hand B. Oh, tapos petty cash. Ay, sorry, A pa rin pala ito. A, kasi ito A pa rin. No? Kasi si branch A ito eh. So let's say this is branch A. Paano kung several yung mga companies ninyo o several yung mga branches ninyo? You have to lump them, di ba? When you consolidate, no, when you consolidate the cash of all the branches, then it has to go in this particular account. No, yung cash in bank ng A, dapat pumasok dito yan. Cash on hand ng A, dito papasok. Petty cash ng A, dito papasok. So, kung meron pang branch B, ganoon din. Dito rin ang pasok dapat yan. But, these 3 accounts should also be summarized into one account, which is cash. Di ba? Kasi kung hindi, yung statement of financial position ninyo, mabibisit yung babasa ng statement of financial position ninyo. Dapat ganito, ang daming cash, no? Pwede naman siyang i-consider as one, no? Kaya pagsasama-samahin nila yon. So pagka pinagsama nila ngayon yan, papasok yan dito sa notes to the financial statements. Kaya lalabas ngayon yan, line item, no? Sasabihin na lang, if you want to know the breakdown of cash, sasabihin lang yan, see schedule number 1 o kaya see note number 1. So parang naging part yun ng appendix, no? So the notes to the financial statements, maybe in layman's term, this is actually the appendix, no, of the statement of financial position, statement of comprehensive income. So if you want to know all the details, no, under the preparation of number 1 and number 2, it should be seen, no, from number 5, which is the notes to the financial statements. Okay? Okay, yan yung preview lang natin, ha? Pasensya na kayo, hindi ko may turo yung buo. Pasensya na kayo kung umuubo, ha? Okay, next tayo. So we have the different users of financial statements. So we can categorize them into internal and external, no? So we have for the internal, we have the board of directors, the managers, and the employees, no? For the external, investors, we have the government agencies, the creditors, community, and consumers. So yan yung mga yan, ha? But this one, the employees, sometimes they are categorized as external. Pero ako, kinakategorize ko palagi siya as employee. No, bakit? Kasi employee pa rin naman siya ng company na nagpe-prepare ng financial statements. And as an employee, it is important to know also the performance of the firm. Siyempre, kung hindi magandang performance ng company, ba't ka mag-stay doon? No, hindi ka especially if you have a family to feed, no? So you have to look for another company. But the purpose for this one, no, the reason why we are categorizing them, because it depends also on the need of the users. So for example, the board of directors and the managers, why do they need the financial statements? So as a board of director, member of the board of director, natural ang reason dyan gusto nyo makita yung performance ng company. And being the strategist of the company, they would like to know what is the better strategy for the firm to sustain its performance if it is good, and what are the strategies to be used if they would like to improve the performance of the company. No? Tapos yung managers naman, syempre being the person in charge of the operations of the company, they would like to know if the company is operating efficiently and effectively, and do the operations really contribute to the welfare of the stockholders. Huh? So yung external so mga external natin, depende na yan, syempre, no? So ano ba yung mga investors natin, no? If they would like to invest, no? They look at the financial statement. Tapos yung creditors natin, if they would like to lend money to you, no? And then the community and consumers. And also the government agencies, no? Especially yung BIR, no? Kung magkano yung itatak sa'yo, di ba? Para meron silang magamit na pang confidential fund. Ha? Pang confidential fund yun Kaya kailangan malaman nila yung mga kikitain. Okay. So, now let's go to the definition of financial statement analysis. Kung may question kayo, huwag kayong magtanong. Mas maganda nga kung nagtatanong kayo para interactive yung ating lesson, no? Kasi tulad ng sinabi ko, boring yung subject, on-site pa tayo, no? Kaya mas maganda talaga online tayo ha? So if you have any question in your company, so please feel free to ask. Total, nanggaling naman ako sa industry din dati, and I was a consultant for several companies before, no? So I hope na I can answer your question, should you have any question. So when we say financial statement analysis, so this is the process of analyzing the financial statements for the purpose of making business decisions. So every time you look at the financial statement, and then you analyze them, the main purpose is always to make business decision, So kung halimbawang net income mo medyo bumaba, from the previous year to the current year, then you have to look at the financial statements of the company. You have to look at the details. So how come the profit of the company declined? Is it internal reason, or is it because external reason? Kasi hindi naman natin pwedeng i-blame yung company if there are certain reasons externally. So for example, yung COVID, can we blame the company for the COVID? Hindi natin pwedeng COVID dyan, hindi natin pwedeng i-blame a company because the decline in profit caused by the COVID is not the company's fault, So for example, inflation, let's say because of the inflation, interest rate will go up, di ba? And when the interest rate goes up, what happens to the operating expenses? Tataas yung operating expenses ninyo if you have the liabilities, And then you are paying interest. So natural, lalaki yung operating expenses, bababa ang net income. But you have to do some remedies on these problems, di ba? For example, yung COVID, Ano naging solution ng ibang companies dyan? no, they opened up yung mga online buying, no? So the reason why we look at the financial statements, no, to make certain decisions based on the result. But like what I said, once you analyze the financial statements, you do not only look internally, but you also have to look at the external factors affecting the company. Then the analysis of financial statements now depends on who are the users. Okay, yung iba hindi na nagbukas ng camera, ha? So sana magbukas kayo ng camera. Ako, masama ang pakiramdam ko pero nakabukas ang camera ko, ha? So, you have the financial statement analysis is an evaluation of the past and current performance of the firm and its perception in the future, no? So it is true that the past cannot do anything anymore to us, di ba? Ganyan sinasabi natin, para sa tao, move on na lang tayo pagka ganyan, no? But we should use the past, no, and the current performance of the company to determine our future. So meaning, we look at the past, look at the mistake, and then try to improve that mistake. So that is the way the financial statement is helping us to improve the performance of the company. Now we have the different tools and techniques. No? So one, by the way, may question muna bago tayo dumiretso? May question or clarification? Question. Lani, may question to Lani? Wala. Mary Rose? Wala. Okay, mabuti na. Sabay tayo lahat ngayon, ano? Okay, maraming may sakit ngayon, ha? Sige, now let's go to the tools and techniques, ha? So one, we have the horizontal analysis. Now, but by the way, tools and techniques can be divided into two. Ito yung horizontal, then another one is the vertical. But in other books, no, that I saw, ginagawa nila tatlo. No, one is horizontal, another one is vertical, and the last one is financial ratios. Pero sa akin, when I conducted my research and when I did my book, no, about financial management, dalawa lang talaga yung nakikita ko, no? And that is horizontal analysis, and then the other one is vertical analysis, no? And then the vertical analysis, under of which is really the financial ratio. Okay, so for the horizontal analysis, so this is used to evaluate the trend in the accounts over the years, and it is usually shown in comparative financial statements. But in the horizontal analysis, meron tayong tinatawag na comparative, and then the other one is the trend ratio. So when we use the comparative statements, now we are only using actually 2 years, no, for comparison. 2 years lang ng 2 years yan. So we are actually only determining the increase in amount or the increase or decrease in amount or the increase or decrease in percentage. So yung formula natin dito is of course yung year 1 minus year 0 over year 0 times 100. No? So yung example natin ito. So that, like what I said, no, for the comparative, we are only using 2 years. 2 years lang ng 2 years yan, no? Kaya if you have, let's see, the statement na 2018, 19, and 20. So yung comparison natin, pang 2018, 19, 18, 20, ano yan? 18, 19, o kaya naman 19 and 20. So gano'n lang na gano'n siya. Dalawa lang ng dalawa. Okay? So because we're not looking for any trend. What we are looking is just for the increase or decrease in the percentage or the amount. Sige, Christina, question?
Sir, kailangan po laging consecutive or pwedeng hindi naman?
What do you mean consecutive?
2 consecutive years yung kino-compare.
Dapat consecutive years. Hindi ko pwedeng tatanong ka ng 2018 to 2020. No? But in making the analysis, no, alba, gumawa ka na ng paragraph for that one. So let's say you're analyzing 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, no? you may show na, let's say, from 2018 to 2020, the increase in cash is at this percentage. Pwede yun. But when you do the presentation, for example, no, halimbawa gagawa ka ng, siyempre, kailangan ipakita mo yung yung computation, di ba? Lalo na sa mga investors, kung gusto nila makita yung detalye, o kaya sa stockholders ninyo. Dapat ipakita mo ganito, no? But when you do the right thing, pwede mo sabihin, the increase in cash from 2018 to 2020, pwede yan. Pwede ka mag-jump, no? But when it comes to presentation nga, dapat makita muna nila ito. Na merong 18, may 19, 20. Ha? Okay ba yan? Kasi kung papakita mo, explain mo ng isa-isa yan. No? From 2018, cash increase from 2019. Then from 2019, increase to ganito in 2020. Masyadong mahaba yun, no? Yung explanation na yan. So, what you can do is you can summarize, no? From 2018 to 2020, cash increased by ganito, primarily because of the following reasons. Ganun lang, pwede na yun. No? Kasi alam mo, mga stockholders, mainipin din yan no? At saka yung mga yan, ayaw nila ng mahabang report, no? Ayaw nila ng mahabang report. Believe me, ayaw nila ng mahabang report, no? Kasi nasa board of the, when I was sitting in the board of directors meeting dati, when I was with the compliance, alam nga, bago lang akong umupo sa board of director Although hindi ako part ng board of director, no? Nag-report lang ako sa board of director, being the compliance head. Sinabihan ako ni Birata. Si Birata pa yung nagsabi sa akin. Parang basta may one of the board of directors may binanggit sa akin, please summarize or shorten what you are reporting. Ganun ka agad yung ang apapan man ng report ko. So, hindi naman na-check ng aking boss, no? Kaya anong nangyari ron? Kasi independent ako nagre-report So, ganun lang siya, no? If you can summarize or shorten the report as much as possible, okay lang. But, there should be an appendix. Kaya nga ang report natin, lagi may summary. Diba? Yung summary, yun ang tinitignan nila palagi. At nasa harap yun. Then, yung details, if they want to look at the details, nasa likod yun. No? Kaya dapat, yung presentation mo, detalyado pa rin. But when it comes to write-up, dun mo i-shorten. Okay? Okay, so we have now the 2018-19. So kung makikita ninyo in terms of amount, we have the 2018-19. No? So ibig sabihin, ito yung year 1, ito yung year 0 natin. No? So 70 minus 75, 5,000. Then for these two, no, itong period naman na to, 65 minus yung 70, 5,000. But if you look at the percentage naman, no, if you use this formula, yan. So meron tayong 70 minus 75, then divided by 75 times 100. No? So you get 6.67%. So this one, 65 minus 70, then all over 70. So you get negative 7.14%. So ibig sabihin, kung titingnan natin yan, your cash declined from 2018 to 2019 to 2020. No? Then we state the reason why there was a decline. Okay? So in all of the accounts, you do that. No? Whether it is in the statement of comprehensive, statement of financial position, or the statement of comprehensive income. Okay? Ayan. Dito, ganun din, di ba? Income statement naman to. No? Kinuha natin yung difference muna nito, which is increase of 110, then from 200 to 20, from 2019, nag-decrease naman ng 10. No? Tapos yung percentage, if there was an increase of 110%, And then for 2019 to 2020, there was a decrease of 4.76%. Okay? May question ba kayo? Clarification? Question? Okay, Erica?
Sir, sorry, first, sir, yung video ko pala ako yung nasa Ilocos, so unstable ako, sir. Naglalag kasi ako pag naka-open.
Okay.
Sir, yung question ko lang po, sir, na-mention niyo po yung financial ratios kanina.
Oo.
Yung paggamit po ba ng financial ratios, sir, discretion po ba yun ng parang kung sino yung nagpre-prepare ng financial statement analysis, sir, or talagang kailangan tandem na po ba siya ngayon based on industry standards po siya ngayon?
Depende kasi yan kung anong analysis ang gusto nyo gawin, no? But it should not be relying based on the person doing the analysis. Kasi syempre, you have a person or you have the stockholders or the board of directors to report to, no? So, dapat alam natin kung ano yung gustong malaman ng board of directors at saka ng stockholders natin, no? Although, of course, you have the prerogative what are the things to be shown, but remember that you are not satisfying yourself, no? When it comes to the analysis, you are trying to satisfy the board of directors, the stockholders, and some stakeholders. But when you do the analysis, again, it will be dependent if you're analyzing only your company or if you would like to analyze your company in relation to other companies. So that's the way you do the financial statement analysis. Pwede yun, no? Pero syempre, kung gusto nating makita ang performance natin internally, ay yung sarili muna natin ang tingnan natin, no? Mamaya may papakita akong ganyan, no? Pero mas maganda syempre, kung nagpe-perform tayo, then we compare that against the industry. Okay.
Understood, sir. Thank you po.
Okay. Okay, now we have the trend ratio. Now for the trend ratio, this time, this one will give you meaningful information about the company. Now why? Because this time we are looking for the trend. Now may trend na tayo rito. Kasi dito sa comparative, wala eh. Ang makikita lang natin dito, increase or decrease from one year to another year. But if you look at the trend, hindi nyo masyado makikita ang trend dyan. Ang trend dito nyo makikita. No? Kasi yung base year natin, common. Dito, ang base year natin, hindi common. Kasi pagka nagbago yung comparative years, nagbabago yung denominator natin. But for this one, yung base year natin pareho lang, whether it's in year 1, year 2. No? Tapos we multiply by 100 to get the percentage. So sorry talaga class, ha? Sorry. So, example tayo ulit. So I still use the same company, no? So this time we were looking at the trend analysis of the company's balance sheet. So for example, we have now 2018. So ito yung magiging base year natin. Now, kaya dito, yan yung base year natin. Okay? Yan yung base year natin. So 2018. Kaya kung makikita nyo, ito yung 100% lahat. Okay? So yan yung 100% lahat. And then we compare 2018 against 2019, no? Tapos 2020 against 2018. So makikita mo ngayon yung trend. Kasi makikita mo, meron kang common denominator, which is 2018. So makikita natin ngayon, for example, for cash, meron tayong 100% in 2018, Tapos pagdating ng 2018-19, naging 93.33. Tapos 2020, naging 86.67%. So nakikita natin na ang trend, pababa yung cash. No? So in that case, you have to, you should be aligned. No? Bakit kaya bumababa yung cash? What are the reasons for the decline in cash? Ha? Pero siyempre, huwag ka naman mag-panic kagad, no? Na bumaba yung cash because there are several reasons for that. So example natin dito, ba't kaya bumaba yung cash, no? From 75 to 65. But if you look at the accounts receivable, this may be one of the reasons, no? So the reason why your cash declined from 75,000 to 65,000 because you're not collecting. Kasi tumaas yung receivables mo eh. No? So that is one possible reason. Then another possible reason is that the reason for the decline in cash is because you put your money in the marketable securities. Kasi tumaas din to. Eh? Tumaas. No? So at least nakakagawa ka ng conclusion, no? With regard to the increase or decrease. And when you do the analysis, no, in doing the financial statement analysis, you do not only analyze one particular account. Hindi po pwedeng ito lang ititingnan mo. No? You have to look at what are the other factors. No, what are the partners, no? Or what are the other accounts affecting cash. Hindi po pwedeng titignan mo lang yung cash. Naku, bumababa yung cash natin, hindi maganda yan. O, hindi ganon, no? Tignan mo kung anong reason, no? Bakit bumababa. Kaya ano yung mga factors na nakaka-affect sa cash? Kung siyempre, halos lahat yan may effect sa atin yan, di ba? So, you have to find out what particular account, no, affects our cash. Kaya lumalabas nga dito yung statement of cash flow if you want to know the details. No? Kasi doon sa details natin, makikita natin na from 70,000 to 65,000, makikita natin yung detalye. Paano bumaba ng 5,000 yun. Kaya nga lang, scrutinize mo lang siya. No? Napakaraming gagawin. And the accountant should be the one doing that and doing that, no? Not you. Lalo na kung hindi naman kayo yung accountant, hindi kayo yung manager ng accounting, no? Kaya you're not the finance person, you cannot do that. Mahirap gawin yun, no? But if the details should be, let's say, they would like to know the details of which, hindi na ganito lang kasimpleng analysis ang gagawin natin. But we have to look at the statement of cash flow. Okay, Sir O'Neil.
Hi sir, good morning sir.
Yes.
Sir, question, kailan mas okay gamitin tong ganitong analysis sir?
Kailan
Kaysa dun sa una na, sir.
alin
yung
na
ganitong
una?
approach,
Ay,
sir.
ito. Kung gusto mo makita yung trend.
Yung trend port, comparing from
Oo.
3 years movement, sir.
Oo.
Mm.
Trend ng ano natin dito, bakit bumababa o tumataas? Kasi dito,
From the base, sir.
ito ano lang,
2 years
tama,
to
from the base. Ito,
1 year
increase
movement.
from 1 year to another
Mm.
year lang, but it does not give you anything.
Mm.
No, walang trend eh. But
Mm.
if this one, you can see the trend.
Mas better ba siya, sir? I mean, sir, kung
On the long-term analysis, that this one is better, no?
okay, sir.
But on an annual report, okay lang itong ginagamit na to.
Since
Annual
ano na,
report,
sir?
annual report, ha?
Okay, sir.
Pwede yan. But for the long-term, halimbawa, may long-term tayong prospect, this one is better, yung trend analysis.
Okay, sir.
Pero marami pang mas maganda actually. No? Kasi ito, kumaga bird's eye view lang ng performance ng company. So, yung better indicator dyan talaga is to look at the financial ratios of the company and then you compare them with the industry. Kasi ito parang bird's eye view, kumabilisan lang, no? Kumabilisan lang. Lalo na kung nagmamadali yung titingin, no? Titingnan lang niya yun. Ba't tumataas yung ano? Ba't
Okay, sir.
ganun lang? Pero
Yun nga.
Pero kung detalyadong gusto nyo makita, hindi itong dapat.
Pero actually, sir, sa mga sir, sa ibang investor, lalo na yung mga non-accountant or
Oo.
mga first-timers, sir, parang na sa kanila to, medyo madami na to, sir. More on net income lang, cash,
Oo. Sa bagay, totoo, no? Kasi, but if the investor is a knowledgeable investor, hindi lang itong titingnan nila talaga. No? They will look at the financial ratios. Kaya if you look at the, for example, no, kung bumibili ka ng stock ng isang company, or let's say you have the merging, consolidation, no? Or you're a regular investor in the stock market, hindi na nga tinitingnan ito eh. Hindi ito titingnan ng financial ratios. Ang titingin ito, alam nyo sino? Yung mga creditors. Yung mga bangko. No? Kasi titingnan nila yung pattern eh. Titingnan nila yung trend. And even banks, they have different way of analyzing the statements. Minsan nga, ang bangko hindi titingnan ito eh. Alam mo kung anong titingnan nila?
Internal FS.
Yung internal FS nila, titingnan talaga yon, no? Kaya lang, hindi sila naniniwala sa internal FS lang. Kasi alam nila na manipulated dyan. Marami ang nagmamanipulate. No? Pero there are other techniques being used by the banks, for example, no? At unusual yung mga technique na ginagawa nila. No? Halimbawa na lang bigay ko. When I was working with Maybank as the area head, no? Yung tinuturuan ko nga sila ng ganito eh. Kasi sabi ko, marunong naman ako sa management consultancy, tinuturuan ko sila ng financial ratios, no? So it is an additional information for them to analyze the financial statements, pero meron silang ginagawa na isa na hindi ko na ituro. Ginagawa nila na hindi ko na ituro. Ako yung natutuloy sa kanila. Ha? Alam mo gagawin nila? Hihingin nila yung passbook. Passbook ang hihingin. Tapos titignan nila yung cash in, cash out ng passbook nila. Ha? Bunin mo, ang simple, di ba? Cash in, cash out ng passbook. Para makita nila kung tama ba yung tama ba yung sinasabi nila ng sales nila o hindi. Kasi yung sales naman ng company, talagang dapat pumasok sa bank account. Eh. Hindi ko pwedeng itago sa vault ng company yan. Eh. Diba? Kasi that is one of the internal controls when it comes to cash. So kaya dapat ilalagay sa banko yan. No? At the end of the day, all sales should be deposited to the bank. Diba? Kaya tinitingnan madalas yung passbook. No? Kaya noon, may mga kliyente kami, mga exporters sila, they are claiming that their sales are something like this, ganyan, no? Ang gagawin ng account officer namin, o yung account officer ko, hingi niya yung passbook. Tapos doon, i-add na lahat ng cash inflow at saka yung cash outflow lang niya. Although, makikita mo naman sa ending balance eh. Pero gusto niya makita, ano yung cash inflows niya, paano gumagalaw yung pera. Which is a good technique also, no? Kasi, like what I said, the financial statements can be manipulated. No? Kayang-kayang i-manipulate yan. They can always window dress, no, the financial statements. So, although we're looking for the audited financial statements, pero still, it can be window dressed by the auditors, no? Kasi naging auditor din ako dati. Kaya alam ko rin siya. Although hindi naman yung may tinatago o may no? Pero may mga gumagawa ng ganun. No, I'm not saying everyone is like that. Pero may gumagawa ng ganun. Okay? May question pa ba or clarification? Wala na. So, continue tayo, ha? Now, let's get to the vertical analysis, no? So, this is the second, way or second tool in the analysis of the financial statements. So, vertical analysis. So, this time we have the common size statement. So, here we are going to look for a significant item in the financial statement, and it will be used as a base value. So, sa statement of financial position natin, yung base value natin, yung total assets or the total liabilities plus the equity. No? Kasi di ba, if you still recall your accounting equation natin is equivalent to assets on the yan. Sandali sulat ko na lang sa ibang ano. Diba, alam naman natin ang basic equation natin is asset is equivalent to liabilities plus the equity. So yan yung basic accounting equation natin no? Assets is equivalent to liabilities plus equity. Kaya whether you use only the assets, no, as presented here, okay lang. Okay naman yung total liabilities plus the total equity. Kasi equal naman itong dalawa na to, no? But under the statement of comprehensive income, we are looking at the net sales. Ano ba yung net sales? So yung net sales is actually, sulat natin dito, no? Pasensya na kayo dito sa board ko, Yung net sales natin is actually sales, then you have the less of the sales discount, and then you have the sales returns and allowances. Allowance. Ano yan? Allowance. Kasi na kayo, naghilo, net sales tayo bill, bale. So, ito yung pinukuha natin, bale. So, meron kasi tayong sales, but these sales, they are reduced by the sales discount, and then the sales returns and allowances. So, the reason why yung most significant item natin is the net sales. Not the sales, but the net sales. Okay, so example tayo. Now, for the common size, no? Kung makikita ninyo, the total assets, tapos yung total liabilities plus the total equity, yan yung 100%. Ito yung makikita nyo, 100%. No? So, yan yung total assets natin. And then this one, we have the total liabilities. This is only a portion. Diba? Yan yun. At saka ito. But you have to add these two. No? To arrive at 100%. Okay? So, ano naman ang significance nitong common size statement na to? Now, the significance of which is that you would know where the company invested too much, no? Where the investment goes to, what particular account. So, halimbawa rito, tingnan natin yung pinakamalaki. Halimbawa rito sa 2018. Sasabihin natin, pinakamalaki pala inventory. So, we invested 26.67% of the total assets in the inventory. And then, of course, we have the 45. Pero ito, normal naman to, di ba? Yung plant assets natin, normal yan, na mataas. Why? Because they're the ones that support the operations of the company. Yan yung mga equipment, yan yung mga machine, yan yung mga building, no? Yung mga offices. Kaya normal na malaki. Normal na malaki ito, no? But you also have to identify bakit sobrang laki. Baka mamaya naman hindi na nakaka-contribute sa sales natin yan bili tayo ng bili ng equipment, no? So there's also a way for that to look at if you need to buy additional assets or not. Pero hindi part ng ating hindi part ng ating lessons yan, no? Pero there is a tool also to determine whether the plant assets, no, are too much or less to support the sales of the company. So meron tool dyan. Ang tawag doon, additional funds needed, no? And we have to determine based on the fixed to sales ratio. Ayan. Once the company is operating 100%. But anyway, for the purpose of yung ating analysis dito, titingnan natin ito. Bakit kaya 26.67%? Malaki ba ang sales natin para mag-hold tayo ng malaking inventory? Ngayon kung hindi malaki, bakit tayo nag-hold ng inventory? No? So tingnan natin yung inventory ngayon. pag tinignan natin yung inventory, tignan natin lahat ba ng inventory nito is saleable or not. Kung saleable yan, okay lang. No? Kung hindi naman, marami kayong obsolete na inventory dyan, which is sometimes possible, no? Maraming obsolete inventory. Or maybe what you can do is to sell them, no? Maybe at a lower price so that you can sell your inventory at ma-reduce natin ito. No? So mga ganung bagay, no? Yung ganung pag-analyze ng common size. No? We need to know how much we invested in a particular account. Kung ito malaki, okay lang. No? Kasi marketable securities yan eh. Ibig sabihin, the company is what? Investing and they have excess cash. And if you have excess cash, then maybe you can use that excess cash to earn additional income in the form of interest or maybe in the form of dividends. Ha? So, kaya minsan, alam mo, ang ginagawa ng mga kumpanya, na-realize ko lang to nung nung nagtuturo na ako ng financial management, no? But siguro mga 20 years ago, hindi ko makuha bakit yung ibang companies, no? Hindi nagbabayad agad on time. No? Pinapatagal nila talaga yung pagbabayad. And you know what? What you're doing, nasa bangko pa ako that time. Eh. No? Pinatatagal nila talaga ang pagbabayad. Tapos alam nyo ano ginagawa? Instead na ibayad nila sa bangko kagad yung pera, no, for the loan, ang gagawin nila, ipapasok muna yun sa negotiable certificate of deposit. No, negotiable. No, ibig sabihin, they can place the money there for several days earning certain percent. So, iba sa time deposit na tinatawag natin. This one is negotiable certificate of time deposit. No, negotiable. Tapos alam mo, kung ano yung kinita doon sa loan na yon na dapat binang bayad niya, ang ginagawa niya ron, pakikitain niya muna. Tapos yung kinita, idadagdag niya sa pambayad ng salaries ng employees. Sabi ko, nga naman yun, talino ha. That was the time when I did not finish my master's, no? So finance. Yung mga strategy na ginagawa ng mga companies na kliyente namin dati, gano'n. Sabi ko, galing, no? Galing. Kaya yung iba, pinoprolong talaga nilang pagbabayad, no? Kasi they can still use, no, the money from prolonging the payments, di ba? Which is correct, no? Kaya rin, pagka may mga bills kayo, no? May mga bills kayo, halimbawa, sa kuryente. Huwag yung bayaran on before, no? Before the due date. Bayaran nyo doon sa due date mismo. Ha? Huwag kayo magbabayad ng 1 month, hindi naman 1 month, may mga 2 weeks o 1 week before the due date. Bayaran nyo doon sa mismo. Ha? Doon din sa credit card, di ba? You can use yung credit card ninyo without earning in any interest. Di ba? You get points, pero you're not paying for the interest expense or any penalty. Kaya lang, dapat alam nyo naman kung kailan yung cut-off date na credit card ninyo. So these are the things that we can use, no, to maximize the use of our cash. So anyway, here, yung nga, tinitignan natin kung ano yung mga significant amounts, no, that is reflected in the financial statement. And then we can investigate. Lagi naman ganun, dapat in-investigate natin yan, no? Kaya madalas sa company, if you look at the records, no, pinapakita pa nga niyan, mayroon kayong variance, di ba? On a daily basis, pinapakita niyo yung variance against the budget, no? Kasi that is very important to the company. Okay, so for this one, this is the income statement. So ang ating significant item is the net sales. Kaya ito yung 100% naman. No? And then everything should be compared against this one. Ha? Kakabalikan natin ng konti pala ito. Hindi ko pala na-explain isa-isa to, no? So, halimbawa ito 75,000, no? Divide natin sa 375. So, 20%, no? Then 20,000 divided by 375, 5.33. Then 10 by 375, 2.67. Ganun lang ng ganun. No? Para makita nyo lang yung percentages, no? How much was invested to a particular account. Ha? Okay, Christina?
Sir, wala po bang ideal na parang percentage kung ilan dapat per item? Wala po ba parang? Okay.
Walang standard. No? Walang standard. Kahit na ilan na yung nabasa kong libro, walang standard dyan. Okay, so
Pero paano niyo po masasabi na parang okay yung standing nitong negosyo na to?
you do the analysis, no? Titingnan mo yung financial ratios, titingnan mo yung kung nagpe-perform ba yung company or not. No, ang merong actually walang standard, but we do some computations, no? Like for example, yung capital structure na tinatawag natin, no, yung capital structure na tinatawag namin, ganito siya. So, meron tayong assets, ulit. Then, of course, you have the liabilities. Then, you have the equity. Ito, nahanapan ng capital structure. Dito nakikita yung standard. But again, the standard is not the same to all the companies. So, ibig sabihin, 100%, kasi ang objective natin sa financial management, di ba, sabi natin before, is to maximize the price of the stock of the company. And one way to maximize the price of the stock of the company is by looking at the lowest weighted average cost of capital. No? So, to look at that, no, ang capital structure natin itong dalawa. So we are going to look for the combination. We're looking for the combination, 50% and above 50%. So we are going to look for the combination of liabilities and equity in relation to your assets. So maaaring yung 50-50, that will help the company. Pero yung process na napakahaba no? Mahabang ituro yung process niya. Kasi nasa capital structure siya and leverage. No? But if just to answer your question, wala siyang standard, but we can compute which is optimal to the company. And one example of that is yung capital structure. What should be maintained by the company? Is it 50-50 or maybe 40%, 60%? Okay naman, 60%, 40%. Dito, pero this one has a lot of computations talaga, no? So pagka itinuturo namin sa accounting students under financial market, no? Under financial market, yung isang whiteboard na isang wall, no? Isang wall ng ano yun, kulang yun, no? Kulang yan to compute kasi we have to do a lot of tables just to determine the proper optimal structure or capital structure to compose the assets. Kasi tayo isip natin, pagka 100% assets to, halimbawa ganyan, tapos sinabi natin 100% equity yan. Sabi natin maganda yung kumpanya, walang utang. Diba? But actually, when an investor will look at the company, a knowledgeable investor, they will not be happy with that one. Yung assets, liabilities, 0, tapos equity, 100%. Because you're not using the power of liabilities. No? You're not using the power of leverage. Okay? So, to answer that question, yun nga, tulad ng sabi ko, walang standard. Walang standard dyan. Okay, so let's go to the next. Ito pa pala tayo, net sales. Yan. So, ito yung 100% natin. Okay? Kasi yung mga standard na yan, depende sa company, Christine. No? Depende yan sa company. So yan 100% natin. So halimbawa yung selling, halimbawa gamitin natin to 2020 na to. So let's say we have the cost of goods sold, 100,000 against 160. So ibig sabihin ng 62.5% siya. No? Kung yung gross profit, 60,000 by 160. So ibig sabihin 37.5. No? So ganun siya. So from here also, you look at the expenses. So which expense, no, the company spent too much. So from that, pwede mo sabihin, dapat bawasan natin yung gastos natin dito sa particular na to. Ha? So ganun din yung reason. Kumbaga, kung gumagawa ka ng budget pa rin, diba? Gagawa ka pa rin ng budget. Tapos titingnan mo kung ano yung mas malaking ginagastos mo, siguro next time babawasan mo yun. No? Gumagawa ba kayo ng ganon? Halimbawa yung mga daily expenses ninyo o yung monthly expenses ninyo coming from your salary, okay, and net income. Gumagawa ba kayo ng ganon? Hindi Kasi ako actually gumagawa ako ng ganon. No? Yung daily expenses ko, tinitingnan ko yun. Naka-record siya. No? Naka-record ako. Tapos, na-analyze ko yun. Biro mo, personal expense ko nilang to, personal finance. No? But even personal finance, we can apply yung financial management by looking at, by doing a table, tapos makita mo yung daily expenses mo and how much coming into you. No? Tapos makikita mo kung magkano yung matitira na lang. No? Kaya maganda rin yan. Parang ganito rin yan. No? Tapos kung ano yung malaking kinastos mo, ay bawasan mo. Ha? And besides, when it comes to the company, it is very important to know the net income. No? It has to result to a positive net income because that is directly correlated when it comes to the price of the stock of the company. No? Siyempre, the higher the net income of the firm, the higher the price of the stock of the company. And like what I said, our objective is to maximize the price of the stock of the firm. Okay, so ito yung mga financial ratios naman natin. No? Bakit hindi na importante yan? Ito ang tignan natin. Ito yung tinatanong mo yata kanina, Christina. No? So yung financial ratios provide two types of comparisons. No? One is the industry comparison and then you have the trend analysis. Unahin muna natin dito sa trend analysis. So for example, meron tayong si RCBC. No? Kasi ito yung dati kong company, no? Nagtatrabaho ako. So, pero yung ratio dito, hypothetical yan, ha? Dapat pala hindi ko nilagay na RCBC na, no? Kasi bawal na ngayon yan, no? Anyway, so let's see ang current ratio ni RCBC is 125, 127, 1.32. If you would see that, you can see that it is improving. Diba? Nag-improve siya. 125, 127, 132. By the way, what does it mean when you see current ratio? So when you see current ratio, we are referring to the capacity of the firm to pay the short-term obligations of the company. No? So it's more on the operations. Ha? Kung makikita nyo to, improving siya. Diba? Improving. Pero, this is an analysis on the performance of the company itself. Si RCBC lang yan. Ha? So it is good to compare now RCBC with the industry. So makikita natin na si RCBC pala may current ratio na 1.32. No, pero ang bank industry nasa 1.5. So ibig sabihin nun, underperformer pa rin si RCBC because it's below the bank industry. No? So that's how you also do the analysis, no? Mga analysis of financial statements. Kasi here, dito, makikita mo, nag-i-improve ka. No? Pero yung improvement mo ba, is it at par with the industry? Kaya titignan natin yung industry ngayon. No? And based on that, hindi siya at par because the current ratio of RCBC is just 1.32 as against a banking industry of 1.5. Okay? Kaya yung industry, importante. No? Importante yan to analyze. Hindi lang po pwedeng i-analyze natin yung sarili natin, but we have to look at the industry as a whole. Okay? Question? Clarification? Okay, Neil?
Sir, question lang. Sino po, sorry sir, hindi ako familiar. Sino po yung nag-ano ng mga bank industry kung ano yung mga standard? May company bang ano sir?
May
In charge or
actually,
mayroong government?
may mga nagko-compute niyan, no? May mga nagko-compute ng mga bank industry na yan.
Meron
Okay
po,
naman, kung wala ka makuha, you can look at for example, ako, tinitingnan ko yung sa Philippine Stock Exchange. No, kasi may mga reports ng financial statements.
Yes sir, yes sir.
Diba? Okay, yung mga brokers, meron yan. Pero minsan iba-iba rin ang ano yan, yung mga computations na yan, no? Kasi minsan there's a tendency to be hindi naman manipulated pero overrated o kaya naman yung comparison mali, no? Halimbawa na lang, lalo na kung tayo ang gagawa, no? O yung hindi maalam sa financial ratios. May tendency magkamali. So it is better if you look at the published bank industry. Maraming sources yan. Kasi for example, no? Sino ba pwede natin example dito? Halimbawa na lang sa telecommunications company. No? Sa telecommunications company, ang naglalaban lang naman talaga dito si PLDT o Intel. In the stock market, it's TEL or Globe. No? Before marami yan, no? Dati may PhilTel, merong Sun, may Smart, no? But eventually they were acquired by these big companies, no? Ngayon, syempre titingnan natin ngayon, tapos sabi mo, i-analyze ko si Dito. Alam mo yung Dito? Yung Dito na telecommunications company owned by Dennis Uy, no? Na pinabaksak talaga ni Duterte ang Globe at saka PLDT, no? Yung price, just imagine the price of PLDT before, it was at 3,300 in the stock index. Now it went down to 1,200. Tapos si Globe na nasa 3,000 din, bumaksak na ng 1,700. 1,700, tama, nasa 1,700 siya, no? Bakit nangyari yung gano'n? Anyway, wag na yan. Pag-usapan lang natin ng industry average. Pero let's say we compare the average of the two, si Globe at si TEL. And then we compare the average, the performance of Dito. Hindi comparable, di ba? Kasi in terms of capitalization, malaking capital ng dalawa. Si Dito, baguan lang yan. Kaya hindi maganda siyang i-compare. So when you do also the comparison, you also look at the market capitalization of the company. So not only at the bank industry, but also the capitalization by those companies.
Actually sir, papunta rin ako dyan sa question kasi
Okay.
mamaya yung it's not the same level nga sir ng sa RCBC then ko-compare sa isang bangko na hindi naman
Mas
same
mali.
level
Tama.
ng same level ng RCBC sir.
Tama. Hindi dapat. Dapat i-compare mo siya based on their capitalization also. At yun yung isang natutunan ko rin sa valuation. No? You cannot compare a small company against the big company. Kasi yung material sa isang small company may not be material to a bigger
Yes, sir.
company. No? So,
Thank you sir.
So si Jeffrey may tanong. Pasensya na, no? Jeffrey?
Hi, yes sir. Good morning,
Yes,
sir.
Jeffrey, yes.
Sir, yung nasabi mo, this is a financial ratio which is current ratio.
Example lang yan, no?
Yes, sir. So, Hindi ko alam kung how can I phrase this, but isn't the financial year ends on the next year? Kunyari, for example, this is 2023.
Okay.
So the financial statements will be out by 2024.
Tama.
So parang lumalabas itong comparison natin na to lagging.
Sorry for that, for the year, ha? Hindi ko na binago yung year. Example lang naman kasi ko.
Yes, sir. Pero ibig sabihin, yung financial ratios na to, lagging factor. So pag kinumpit mo siya, lagi siya naglalag against the year. Parang ganun.
Kasi it depends, of course, on the financial statements, if it was issued already or not. But
Yes, sir.
pero
Pero
meron, pwede mo naman siyang kunin on a quarterly basis because the quarterly reports are also given by the companies to Securities and Exchange Commission, especially if the company is listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange. So if the company is listed in the Philippine Stock Exchange, you can immediately make a comparison. Ngayon, a comparison naman, not necessarily on a yearly basis. It can be done also on a monthly, quarterly, or semi-annual. Because like what I said, on a quarterly basis, these companies, they are required to submit the reports to the Securities and Exchange Commission. But especially if they are a publicly listed company, meaning they are traded in the stock market, then you can already get also the information from the Philippine Stock Exchange.
yes, sir. Pero you have to wait for at the end of the month. Still, for example, this
ganun
November.
Ganun talaga.
So, yun. Kasi ang next question ko, to follow up this one, are there any ratios na leading? Kasi ang tingin ko rito, sir, yung current ratio lag. So, kunwari, if I have to buy the stock, so delay ako ng decision making eh. Kasi aantayin ko yung lag ng financial term, which is 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, doesn't really matter. But yung information ko is delayed na siya.
No, tama.
So are there any other ratios na may leading?
What you can do is to forecast already.
Oh. Kasi may
Nagawa ka
percentage of error ang forecast eh, di ba?
Tama. Wala naman tayong forecasting na perfect, no? So you can do the financial modeling based on the historical prices or based on the historical performance of the company. That's correct, no? Talagang naglalag. Kaya nga, many of them talaga, especially if you're trading in the stock market, you have to go to the PSE. Tapos doon ka kumalap ng chismis. Basically, the stock market, they are run by noise. They are run by chismis. So, if you want to get an update, no? Hindi mo makuha yan sa newspaper kagad. Kasi maglalag at maglalag yan. Hindi natin masasabing perfect yung timing. No? Otherwise, you get the information directly from the company, but that is wrong because you call that insider trading.
Yes.
No? So yan, nag-invest ka ba, Jeffrey, sa stock market?
Yes, sir, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, very interesting tong subject. Tapos meron pa akong isang sir follow-up kanina sa questions ni Christina. So nasabi mo na may financial standing or company standing siya with the
Standard,
yes, sir.
Standard.
Oh, yes, sir.
May standard ng financial ratios. Ang sabi ko, wala.
Yes, sir. Financial ratios. Doon sa financial standing, company standing niya, actually instruction niya na asset equals liability plus OE. Ang sabi mo kanina, meron siyang tamang timpla.
Tama.
Ngayon sa question ko kasi, bakit siya nagkakaroon ng advantageous since kung liability mo is mas malaki dun sa OE, samantalang liability increases, babayaran mo siya, may interest siya. Bakit siya nakaklasify na mas maganda yun?
Hindi. Ang sabi ko doon, medyo mabigat na yung tanong mo, Jeffrey. No? Hindi ko na alam kung maintindihan na marami to. But to answer that question, sa concept kasi ng valuation, supposedly this should be taught by in your valuation, no? In your valuation, in your stocks or bonds. Pero pwede kong sabihin naman din dito, no? So for example, paano ko ba yung withdrawing? Halimbawa tayo ito, no? Withdrawing ko dito, halimbawa yan. Okay? So this is the, let's see, the price of the stock. Medyo advanced na yung tanong mo, Jeffrey, kasi. So this is the price of the stock, and then let's say you have this line. Ito yung liability line. Okay, nambura. Ano ba yan? Ulit. So nandito yung price ng stock. But of course, these are based on theories, no? Theories na natutunan lang namin din. So this is the liability. So ganyan siya. No? So for the liabilities, this one, ito yung line ng liability natin. So we have to look for this peak. We have to look for that peak. Kasi at certain point, now this liability helps the price of the stock to increase. Okay? And then at certain point, once you maximize the liabilities, no, the price of the stock now will go down. Bakit? Kasi yung interest expense always depends on the amount of the loan that you borrowed. Depends on the riskiness of the company. Now, if the company is too risky already, chances are what? The credit rating of the company will go down. Diba kasi ang credit rating natin, kung magandang credit rating natin, makapangutang tayo ng mga pangutang ng pera no, sa company on the company's part. Kung magandang credit rating ng company, yung interest rate na babayaran natin, mababa pa. But as you increases your liabilities, now yung risk now is also increasing. And once the risk increases, chances are, no, the credit rating of the company now deteriorates. At pagka nag-deteriorate yan, yung interest rate mo, tataas na. At pagka tumaas yun, instead of helping you to minimize the WACC, no? Kasi yan dito sa structure na sinabi natin dito, ito, diba? So we have to look for the structure. Pagka umabot na siya rito, halimbawa lang, kasi depende sa isang company yan, no? Halimbawa umabot na siya rito, no? Ang chance yan, babaksak na yung combination nito. Kasi meron tayong tinatawag na cost of capital. Na yung cost of capital, dapat ma-minimize natin yun. Ibig sabihin, in layman stream, yung cost of capital, ito yung ito yung puhunan natin. O ito yung cost ng puhunan natin. At dapat, hindi tumaas yung cost. So, in other terms also, kung bawang cost natin ay 10%, halimbawa, dapat huwag na natin pataas sa 10% pa ng smart budget. Dapat ma-maintain natin yung 10% na yun. Then otherwise, pagka tumaas yung 10% na yun to 11, 12%, yung expenses natin bababa, operating expenses natin tataas, bababa ang net income. At pag bumaba ang net income, yung perception ng investor ngayon hindi na maganda. So chances are they will avoid the company. Although, mamaya papakita natin yun sa mga financial ratios, no? Kasi may impact ang liabilities against the owners, against the earnings per share, at saka yung return on equity. Na mapakita natin yun sa mga ratios mamaya. Balikan natin mamaya ito ulit, no? Kasi advance yung tanong mo, Jeffrey, but it's a good question, no? It's a good question. But it's very advanced actually, no? Kasi tinuturo namin sa higher finance subjects. Although this one is advanced, but we cannot do the advanced lessons talaga, no? Kasi isa lang yung financial management niyo, no? Pero hindi siya ganun ka-advanced. Actually, nabibigay ko na sa inyo yung medyo yung tip lang ng financial management, no? But it's a good question, no? And that is always important to look for the right mix, no, of liabilities and equity. Okay?
Sir, yung graph mo na ito is ratio to. May tawag pa to, sir.
Actually, hindi to ratio. Ang tawag sa kanya yung, kalimutan ko yung pangalan niya. No? But it is under the valuation, no? Under the capital structure leverage. Capital structure and leverage.
So, hindi to public information, sir.
Hindi.
Kailan malabas sa
Hindi.
statement sa PSE or sa PSE?
Hindi.
Nothing. So, internal ito, sir.
Oo. Kumbaga ito ay theory. No? Theory ng isang ng mga scientist in finance.
Yes, sir.
Kaya sinasabi nila na even without the liabilities, no, the company will not progress too much. Kaya kahit ngayon, no, pagka ako nagtatanong ako sa mga negosyante, they always looking for the power of leverage. Nagugulat nga ako minsan mo lang tinapos when I went to Isabela, for example. Isabela is known for coins. Meron ako nakilala na Chinese. Hindi siya nakatapos ng college, pero alam mo, ang sinasabi sa akin, bakit ako mag-i-issue ng pera? Mangungutang ako. Sasabihin mo gano'n. Bakit? Kasi yung cost of money ko. Bakit yung gagamitin yung sarili kong pera para ipanggastos dyan? Paano ko bumaksak? Hindi ba rin mangutang ako? Kahit na magbayad ako ng interest, kikita ako. And you cannot see any company that they will issue first equity before liabilities. They always issue liabilities before the equity. Kaya makikita nyo, naglilipa na sa newspaper, makikita nyo, nag-i-issue muna ng bonds, no? Nag-i-issue ng commercial papers before they go into IPO, no? Initial public offering. And this is true for all the companies that I know. No? It is good to watch. Last time, no, binanggit ko sa inyo yung other people's money. Diba? You try to watch that. No? That is an example of a company does not have any liability but easily taken over by another company. Ang ganda ng movie na yun. No? Yung other people's money, especially Jeffrey, kung mahilig ka sa ganito, you can watch it, no? Yung other people's money. Ako, lagi kong pinapakita yan o pinapapanood ko. No? Kaya lang, tayo wala tayong chance para manood dito. Pero pagka nag-go online, pinapapanood ko yan. No? Kasi magandang movie. At siya yung nakita kong complete package when it comes to financial management. From start to end, nakita ko. No? Kaya maganda. And I highly recommend that movie. Okay? O yan, tapos na tayo dito, no? So, balik tayo. Let's go to the financial ratios now. No? So, the financial ratios, they are classified into 5, no? 5 activities or 5 different financial ratios. So, one of them is the liquidity ratio. Then we have the solvency ratio, activity, profitability, and the market share ratio, no? Now, for the liquidity ratio, these are the pasensya kayo dito, hindi ko ma-explain lahat to kasi sa dami talaga, no? So, you have to read them, ha? You have to read them. So, we have the liquidity ratio. Ito yung capacity to meet the maturing short-term, no, obligations natin. Okay? So, meron tayong current ratio ngayon. So, yung total current assets over current liabilities. Then, this one is actually improved to as a test ratio or quick ratio. Bakit? Kasi current assets natin dito talaga, just to summarize lang, ha, parang yung mas common. Ang part ng current ratio kasi natin, cash, tapos meron tayong accounts receivable, then we have the marketable securities, inventory, then we have the sabihin natin supplies, no? So yun ang others, no? Others na lang lagyan natin, others. No? So for the current ratio, kinukuha natin lahat ito. No? Kinukuha natin lahat yan. So for the current ratio, current ano siya? current assets over current liabilities. Current assets, ano yan? So, current assets over current liabilities. So, ito lahat yun. No? Then they improve that to asset test ratio. In-improve nila yan. Asset test ratio ang tawag. So this time, ano ba yan? No, asset test ratio. So this time, they improve this current ratio to asset test ratio by removing these two. At tinanggal yung dalawang yan. So nalalabas ito ay cash plus accounts receivable plus marketable securities. O tama ba ako? O tama yan ngayon, no? So yan siya. All over current liabilities. Naging ganyan siya, no? Tinanggal natin yung inventory at saka yung others na to because for you to pay the obligation dito sa current liabilities na to, ang sinasabi natin, dapat mabenta mo na dapat yung inventory na yan. Hindi pa naman nabibenta yan eh. Hindi siya cash. Hindi siya receivables. So, ibig sabihin, you have to sell that in order to become money. So, the reason why they remove that in this ratio. Kasi hindi siya ganun ka-liquid. No? Then, another one, this asset test ratio, they consider it not to be very liquid also. Yung ginawa nila, in-improve nila ulit yan. Nagkaroon tayo ng cash position ratio. Yung cash position ratio natin na to, ngayon, ang ginawa nila, cash na lang, plus marketable securities all over current liabilities. So, ito ang pinaka-liquid sa lahat. Bakit? Kasi ito cash na eh. Pero pa ba mas liquid pa sa cash? Wala na. Di ba? Then, the other one is the marketable securities. Now, the marketable securities is very liquid also. Why? Because it is a security that anytime you can sell in the market. No, hindi siya katulad ng inventory na nakatenga pa yan. No? Pero ang marketable securities, this is considered even cash equivalent. No? It is even considered as cash equivalent. So the reason why they improve current ratio to asset test to cash position ratio. No? So yan siya. No? So itong working capital to total assets, pabayani na yan. No? Walang kwenta yan. So ito working capital, tinitingnan din natin to, no? Kasi this is the difference between current assets and current liabilities. But actually, looking at the current ratio, pwede na yan. Pwede nang yun na lang. So this one is the other, the one that I mentioned, the most liquid among the financial ratios, no, under the liquidity. Okay, and then this one, birang gamitin ito, no, birang gamitin yan. So mas nandito tayo bale. Ha? Okay, so mag-example tayo. May mga example pa pala ako nagawa rito na konti. So, mag-example tayo ng konti rito, ha? So, halimbawa, we have the following information summarized from the balance sheets of RINA, Incorporated and Kanjo, no? So, we have the, using the information provided above, compute the following for each company at December 31, 2020. So, for Kanjo, we have the total current assets, ito. Ito pa yun, bale, di ba? Kaya pati mga prepaid kasama pa, no? So then we have the current liabilities. Ito. So it's 1.39. Okay? Tapos pagdating dito, which is a quick ratio, kukunin lang natin yung hanggang dito. Okay? So ito tinanggal na natin. Okay? So that's why it's 167.8, then 150, so it's 1.12. Now for RINA, so the same, ito yung kinuha natin. So yun. Then we have 860. Ayan. So it's 1.13. No? Then for the quick ratio, tinanggal lang natin ito. Okay? So ito lumalabas. 766, 100, 860, 90, so 0.89. But actually lumalabas dito dahil wala naman siyang may cash position ratio, pwede tayo mag-compute. No? Pero if we want to compute for the cash position ratio, ito lang ang gagamitin natin. Ito. No? Okay? Pagka cash position ratio, ha? Kasi wala example dito ng cash position ratio. Nandyan lang tayo sa current ratio at saka quick ratio. Ha? O, so kung ba gusto natin mag-compute ng cash position ratio, we only use this. Kasi wala dito. Now, coming from this one, which is a more liquid? Si Rina ba o si Kanjo? So, syempre, mas malaki ito. Meaning, Kanjo is more liquid than Rina. No? Okay? So, even if you look at the cash position ratio, mas ang pa rin, liquid pa rin. Pagdating ito pala dyan, hindi. No? Si Rina. Tama. Pagdating sa cash position ratio, tingnan nga natin, complete na lang tayo. Tingnan natin na. So, settled na tayo dito. So, let's look for the cash position ratio. Ha? So, 340, 800 plus 12,000 and divided by 860 naman. So, this is 41%. Then the other one, mas malaki pa rin si Kanjo. 71% or 72%, no? Okay, pala pagdating sa sa cash position ratio, mas malaki pa rin si Kanjo, no? Ayan. Okay? Okay, so let's go to the asset utilization ratio. Hindi ko pala nabura to. Plus, pahingin ako ng CR break sandali, no? Kaya rin, kung gusto nyo mag-CR, CR muna rin kayo. Sandali lang, ha? Mhm. Thank you. Okay, hello. Shall we continue? So sorry for that, huh? Okay, so next we have yung activity ratio, no? So yung activity ratio to just summarize, no, kung anong ibig sabihin ng activity ratio na to, is that, for example, we have this process bale, no? So yung process natin is first you buy inventory, tapos papunta siya ng inventory, then it becomes sales, then it becomes what? Accounts receivable. Ayan, but then it goes back to cash. So ganyan lang yung cycle na lumalabas, no? So you buy inventory, then turn that into sales, then sales turn that into accounts receivable, and then go back to cash. Then once you receive your cash, na dito, then you have to pay for the payable. No, yung payables natin. Pay payables. No? So ganyan. Yan lang yung cycle value na sinasabi nitong ating activity ratio. So we have to look for the cycle. And this cycle should be shortened. No? Mas maganda nga kung itong part na to, nandito sa ilalim siya, tapos yung cycle nito, longer than this one. Ha? Kasi dito, pagdating sa financial management, ang kailangan natin talaga is to prolong when it comes to payment, then expedite when it comes to collections. Yan ang dapat na ginagawa natin pagdating sa financial management, no? Expedite collections, then prolong when it comes to payment. Kaya ito, no, dapat mapahaba natin to, ito yung mapaiksi natin. And we are measuring them, no, using ito activity ratio nito. Okay, so yan yung ating ano, no? So here we check the accounts receivable turnover. So yung formula natin is net credit sales all over average accounts receivable, no? So take note, this is net credit sales. So when you see net credit sales, we're talking of sales on account. Ibig sabihin, nagbenta ka ng pautang. Hindi yung nagbenta ka ng cash. So if the sales is, let's say, a combination, no? So yung sales nyo is, let's say, combination ng credit at saka ng cash, then we have to remove the cash. Dapat credit sales lang talaga yan. So then we have the average collection period. No? The average collection period, this is how long you can collect your receivables. No, on the average, on the average, how long can you collect the accounts receivable? So meaning, ito na yung giging cash na bali natin. No, cash na bali natin yan. And then yung merchandise inventory, at saka ito, pareho lang yan, no? Kasi itong merchandise inventory, ginagamit natin to if the company is a merchandising company. But we use the finished good inventory if the company is a manufacturing firm. Ha? So, magkaibang firm yan no? When we see merchandising, we are referring to the buying and selling of goods. But when it comes to finished good inventory, this is a term used by manufacturing company. So meaning they buy materials, no, they manufacture it and then sell it, no? So ganun siya. So this one, the merchandise inventory, you have the cost of goods sold all over the average merchandise inventory, no? And then you have the, huwag na natin pansinin itong mga to kasi sa mga ano yan sa mga manufacturing yan. And then we have the age of inventory. So you have the 360 days over inventory turnover. Ano ibig sabihin yan? So ibig sabihin yan, yung number of days for you to sell your inventory. No, yan yung number of days to sell the inventory. And then we have the working capital turnover. Huwag na yan, hindi naman importante yan. And then also this one, no? Huwag na natin pansinin yan. Then let's go to the accounts payable turnover. Inedit ko to, hindi pala ito yung napalitan ko. Ha? Inedit ko yan ginamit ko yung ibang ratios na ginagamit sa accounting, no? Pero sa inyo, hindi naman kailangan yan. Kasi nasa MBA kayo. Ha? So anyway, you have the accounts payable turnover, no? So payable turnover is net purchases. Ha? So net purchase, actually hindi siya net purchases, kundi pagka natin, baka magkamali pa tayo. This one is net credit, no? It's net credit purchases. Okay? Then over accounts payable, average accounts payable. And then you have the operating cycle. So for this operating cycle, you're going to use the formula, this one, and this one, no? So yan, operating cycle. Pero meron pa tinatawag na isang formula, yung cash conversion cycle na tinatawag. Now, yung cash conversion cycle, type natin sa labas. So meron tayong tinatawag na isa pa na cash conversion cycle. So yung cash conversion cycle, ang formula nito, ito yung age of inventory plus the age of kilovolts, then minus the age of payables. No? Ay, ba't wala? Yan. Yan yung formula ng cash conversion cycle. Nakikita nyo? No? Yung cash conversion cycle natin. So that is the age of inventory plus the age of receivables minus the age of payable. So the higher the cash conversion cycle, that is more disadvantageous to the company. Kasi dapat mas maganda kung mas maliit o negative siya. No? So ulitin ko pagdating sa cash conversion cycle, mas maganda pagka mas maliit or negative. Bakit? Ibig sabihin nun, you are making use of your liabilities as a temporary use of cash, no? So you're using the payables. So instead of paying them immediately, no, you can use them as cash, no, to your company. At saka ibig sabihin lang din nun, na yung waiting time for the inventory and for the receivables, they are short as compared to the age of payable pagka negative, no? Kasi may investment tayo dyan. May investment tayong binibigay dyan o nilalagay. And that can be converted into cash. Now later on, makukuha natin yan, no? Kasi yung working capital management, pag-aaralan natin, so that is part. Then we have ito, wag na natin masyadong pansinin itong mga to, no? So example tayo rito. So the firm that you work for had credit sales of 3.5 million. So last year, and on average had 35,000 in its accounts receivable during the year. So what is the average collection period? So yung accounts receivable turnover natin, Diba ang formula natin ay net credit sales, no? So we have the 3,000,005, kaya ito yun. And then we have the average receivables, which is this one, 35. So ito yun. So ibig sabihin, turnover natin is 100 times, no? So this one, the higher the turnover, no, the better. Mas mataas yung turnover mo, mas maganda, no? Kasi kung mataas ang turnover mo, dahil since siya ay denominator dito, kung mataas ang denominator mo rito, ibig sabihin, maliit lang ito. So yung average collection period mo will be shorter, no? So for the, another way to compute for that, no, for the average collection period is 35,000 all over 3,000,005 divided by 360. Pero pareho rin naman ang lalabas, no? Pero ako, ginagamit ko palagi ito. Yung dalawa, no? Para mas, lalo na kung hindi pa sanay, so this two is better than using this one. Although it will give you the same formula, no? Kasi ito, AR to, tapos itong part na to, average sales per day. So lalabas din yun, collection period pa rin yun, no? Okay, now let's get to the leverage. Abot tayo talaga ng hapon. Actually, mahaba ang financial management, no? Aha. Lalo na itong financial ratios na to. Itong financial statement analysis, mahaba talaga. So, we have the leverage ratio. So, it is also sometimes called as solvency. No? Pagka solvency, this time, we're talking of the long-term obligations. Long-term obligation. So, yung capacity natin to pay long-term obligations. So, meron tayo rito yung mga debt ratio, equity ratio, debt to equity ratio. No? So, ito, huwag na natin pansinin ito. So, yung debt ratio natin, yung total liabilities over total assets, tapos yung total equity over total assets, at pagka total debt to equity naman, liabilities to total equity. No? So, yun yung mga formula. Kaya, yun yung sa susunod, ang compre natin, siguro, sasabihin ko, magkaroon lang ng cheat sheets din. No? Sa sobrang dami ng formula, actually, nahihirapan ng mga estudyante. No? Kaya lang dapat maintindihan natin. No? And then you have the, ito importante itong pag-usapan natin, no? Times interest earned ratio. Ito, wag na. Wag na natin pag-usapan to. Itong times interest earned ratio. So that is the EBIT all over annual interest charges. So for the times interest earned, no, or TIE kung tawagin ng minsan, that is the number of times, no, ibig sabihin that you can pay for the interest expense. So the higher the higher the times, no, the higher the times interest earned ratio, the better. Kasi that only shows your capacity to borrow more. No, pinapakita niya kung gaano ka pa pwede manghiram ng pera. No? So here in the times interest earned ratio, the higher the times interest earned ratio, the better. So it simply means that you can borrow more. No? So, ganun lang yun. Kasi yan, sisab lang yan, ilang beses mo kayang bayaran yung interest expense. Diba? Siyempre, kung mas maraming kayang bayaran, mas maganda. No? Okay, so example tayo dito. Napakahaba pa lang ito. So, halimbawa, ito yung binigay na statement sa atin. No? So, hindi ko na ma-explain isa-isa. So let's say meron tayong, there were 72,000 shares of common stock outstanding throughout the 2020. Dividends on common stock amounted to 320,400 and dividends on preferred stock amounted to 45,000. The market value per share of common stock was 54 at the end of 2020. So the net income tax rate is 30%. Okay, so required times interest earned ratio. So, yung times interest earned ratio natin is EBIT. No? Nasa ba yung EBIT dito? Ito ang ating EBIT. And then we have the interest expense. So divide lang. Na-divide lang yung dalawa. So kaya makuha natin 14.38 times. So ibig sabihin, that's good. No, kasi you can pay for the interest 14 times. So meaning you can borrow more, no? What about the debt ratio? Yung debt ratio natin, dahil yan ay debt ratio, so ibig sabihin total liabilities over total assets. So yung total assets natin is 4. Then the total liabilities natin, malabas ito. Ayan. So kaya magkano yun? Bakit yun?
Hindi kasama sir yung preferred stock.
Nasama ko pala preferred stock. Sorry. Ayun, hanggang dito lang. Yan, no? Nasabit ko pa yung preferred stock kaya pala, no? Yung preferred stock natin hindi kasama, ha? So we have the accounts payable and the long-term bonds payable, ha? So we have 1198 tapos yung 4133 ito. Okay, so makuha natin is 0.29. So maganda na rin ratio yan, no? Pero we do not know if we are using the power of leverage. Ha? Kasi pagdating sa computation ng EPS natin, o kaya return on equity, mas maliit yun. Mas maganda kasi kung medyo malaki yung liabilities natin. No? But not to the point that it is already detrimental to the company. No? And then we have the debt equity ratio. So the same pa rin dito, pero makukunin natin ito. So yan. No? So kasi yan yung equity. Okay? Kapag pinag-add natin itong dalawang to, dapat mag-equal siya dito eh. Diba kasi yan yung total assets. So it is 0.41. Okay? Ayan. Now let's go to the profitability ratio. No, kaya minsan nakakainis ituro itong ano eh. Kasi ang daming formula, no? Tapos nabubugdot ang mga estudyante. Okay, so anyway, for the profitability, na meron tayong tinatawag na gross profit margin, operating profit margin, net profit margin, no? So dito, pinapakita lang ng mga formulas na yan actually, yung capacity ng firm, no, to generate profits, no? And from there, this one, you can also determine if the expenses are too much, or if, let's say, the sales is too low, no? Okay, yung gross profit ratio ninyo ay mababa, no? So maybe you can come up with some analysis on to improve on the costing of the product, or maybe you can look for the cheaper way to produce your product. No? Kasi kung maliit lang yung gross profit margin mo, ibig sabihin may problema sa costing o may problema dun sa cost ng inventory mo. So maybe you may have to look for another source of supplier. O kaya naman, baka mamaya naman, masyado kang maraming inventory na tinatabi na hindi naman sellable, no? Na hindi naman nakocover ng gusto ng sales. So, yan yung mga pwedeng pang-analysis for this one, no? So, yung profitability ratio natin. And then you have also the return on total assets, no? So, that is net income over average total assets. By the way, now, once you compare, let's say na gumawa ka ng ratios, no? Pagka gumawa ka ng ratio, and let's say one account, this one, is coming from the statement of comprehensive income, and then the denominator comes from another statement, which is a statement of financial position, dapat yung denominator ninyo naka-average. Ha? Dapat yan ay naka-average. Okay? So, yung rate of return on total assets natin can also be computed as asset turnover times the net profit margin. No? Then we have the return on equity. So this is net income all over the average ordinary equity. So may also be computed using the DuPont formula na return on assets times equity multiplier. Kaya sana pumayag kayo ng Sunday next week para magkaroon tayo ng konting exercises, no? Kasi tulad niya, may 2 topics pa tayo. Kung siguro mga 2 hours lang yun next Sunday kung sakali, no? Kaya kung sakali, Saturday and Sunday kayo next week, no? Yung Saturday kay Mr. Kinisio, yung Sunday sa akin ulit. But we will finish the concepts today and then we will have some exercises next week. Medyo nag-extend lang ako ng 3 meetings. So okay lang ba sa inyo yan? Start tayo ulit mga 9 o'clock. Ayan, marami naman nag-okay, no? Very good, no? Para tapusin lang natin yung concepts ngayon. Kasi kung hindi kayo papayag na gano'n, pwede ka namang okay lang, no? Kaya lang sayang kung matutunan nila yung concepts without applications, di ba? Ayan, sige, maganda yan, ha? Then we have the return on equity. So dito, sasabihin ko, ayun ako. Dito yung maganda rito. Ito, sabihin ko rito yung yung sinasabi ko kanina kay Jeffrey, no? Na yung rate of return on equity. Okay, so ordinary equity minsan is common stock, ha? So pag-usapan natin itong return on equity na konti. Para doon sa explanation ko kanina kay Jeffrey din, no? So ganito kasi siya. Yung return on equity natin, yung formula natin is net income over the common shares, no? Common shares. Okay, so ganyan siya. Laki na lang natin ito. Ngayon, tingnan natin, no? Halimbawa, ang net income natin, let's say is 10 million. And let's say we have 1 million shares. Hindi, wag naman ganyan. Mga 25 million shares ang bawa. Ayan. So, yung return on equity natin, na using this formula, no, is 40%. Okay? Because you have 25,000 shares. Pero let's say, without changing the net income, without changing the net income, and let's say yung ating, and lagyan natin ng interest expense siguro. Halimbawa, meron tayong assets. So, ito yung liabilities. And then, of course, you have the equity. No? So, magkano kaya natin lalagay yung shares? Halimbawa, 25 million. 25 million yan. Okay, so halimbawa ganyan siya. Okay, so ito yung liabilities natin, ha? Yan. So let's see yung par value nito. Per share, halimbawa lang. Halimbawa lang naman, ha? It's 1 peso. No? So kaya 25 million divided by 1, 25 shares pa rin, 25 million shares pa rin, no? So that is the scenario 1. But what if, no? What if lang? Instead of 25 million equity to support, let's say yung 25 million assets na yan, ang ginawa natin, nag 50-50 tayo. So, dito nag 50-50% tayo, halimbawa. So, ito yung 100%. So, nandito yung 25 million. Meaning, yung liabilities natin dito, liabilities natin dito is 12 million 5. No? So, this one is also 12 million 5. Okay? Now, let's say, teka lang ha, check ko muna yung aking hypothesis dito. Ayan. So, for example, ganito, no? Ito yung situation natin. Ito. Computation natin for this one. Okay? So, let's say ganyan siya. But let's say, on the other hand, ginawa natin, instead na 25 million to support the entire assets, 50% were actually borrowed. And then 50% were financed by the owners. So, magiging ganito siya. No? And let's say this one, being a liability, let's say, pays interest of 10%. Nako po. Let's say 10%. Oh. So kung ito siya, so yung net income natin dito, it will be how much now? Kasi may 10% interest. So ibig sabihin, itong 10 million, mababawasan ng 1,250,000. Tama ba? So that is 10 million minus 1,250. Okay? But the common shares now is 12,500 at 12,500,000. So look at the effect on the return on equity. Di ba mataas? Simply because you borrowed money instead of just using the equity. So even if you paid, let's say, 1,250,000 for the interest, but the ultimate effect on the return on equity is higher. And when an investor look at the financial statements of the company, they would look more on this one, not on the net income, but the return on the equity, because that is the return on the investment that they made. No, yung net income hindi yun ang return mismo but the percentage return on the owners, di ba? Oh, another way to look at it is the earnings per share. Ano nga ba yung earnings per share? Ay, ganun din naman dito yun. Wala nang pinagkaiba, no? So, ganyan din yun sa return on equity natin. So mas maganda pa rin siya, di ba? Kaya, use the power of leverage, kumbaga kung tawagin nila. Ha? O kaya naman, kung EPS, no? Kasi ito in terms of, actually, mali pala to. Hindi common equity dapat to. Total, o average pala, no? Sorry. Average equity to. No? Average equity. Aha. Pero wala namang mangyayari sa ano, huwag kayo mag-alala. Ayan. Ngayon, pagdating sa EPS na tinatawag natin, meron pa tayong tinatawag na EPS. No? Ibig sabihin ng EPS na yan ay earnings per share. Okay, so ganyan. Which is the formula? Ano ba to? Ang formula naman yan ay net income over yung common shares. No? Nagkamali ako kanina. Common shares to. So ito, yung nandito, absolute amount yan. No absolute amount. That is in peso. But this one is the common shares. So if you have, let's say, the same example, lalabas dito, magkano yung common shares, common EPS natin dito. So dito, it's of course in terms of percentage. Pero yung EPS natin, iba. So let's say dito, meron tayong 10 million, tapos isa 25 million. So lalabas ito yung EPS natin para dito, no, yung para dyan. Ang makukuha natin is 0.40. So 0.40 per share. Okay? Pero dito, na pagka-compute natin yan, doon sa isa, no? Dahil siya ay 8,750, kung sa mga 12,000,005, makikitain natin doon ay 0.70 per share. Ha? Ba't nagkaganon, sabihin niya, pareho to. Oh? Okay, nagkapareho lang yan ng ganon kasi ginawa kong par value dito is 1 peso. Nagkataon lang ng 1 peso ginamit ng par value. But actually, when it comes to return on equity, that is a percentage, no? So 40 and 70%. But if you look at the earnings per share, ibig sabihin kung magkano ba ang kinita ng bawat share mo doon sa company, dito sa nauna, kinita mo lang 0.40 per share. Pero doon sa pangalawa, yung ginamit natin ito, ang kinita mo ay 0.70 per share. So which is bigger, di ba? At pagka ikaw yung investor, ang titingnan mo pa rin, ito. Hindi niya titingnan ng net income. Titingnan niya, ito. Nagets niyo? Ipon? Ha? Masyado lang numerical, ano? Masyado marami, no? Lalo na pagka ginawa natin yung mga capital structure, no? Ito, nasa FS analysis pa lang tayo. Kaya, I hope na naintindihan natin, ha? Kaya kung meron kayong hindi naintindihan na part, please ask question, ha? Okay, so next tayo. Ito lang na-discuss pa lang natin, ano? Ang return on average current assets, so ngayon, pabayanan natin yan, no? At sagutan natin itong mga return on sales, total assets, at saka return on common stockholders equity. At saka humingi ako ng pasensya talaga sa inyo dahil yun lang muna ako masakit. Pinipilit ko lang, ha? Pasensya talaga. Hindi ko ma-force yung aking bosses, ha? Okay, so there were 72,000 shares of common stock outstanding throughout the 2020. So dividends on common stock amounted to 320,400 and dividends on preferred stock amounted to 45,000. So the market value per share of common stock was 54 at the end of 2020 and the income tax rate is 30%. So return on sales. So pagka return on sales natin, ito yung formula natin. So net income, no, all over the sales. So yung net income natin ay ito. Okay, and this one is the sales. Okay? So kaya ito siya. So 13.87%. Now what about the return on total assets? So still the net income is the numerator. But this time, we are going to average the total assets, no? We are going to average the total assets. So, ito yung total assets natin at saka ito. Okay? So, we add the 2 and then divided by 2. So, kaya ito siya. Ang makukuha natin is 18.81%. Okay? Now, what about the return on stockholders' equity? Now, for this one, we have to remove the dividends on the preferred stockholder. No? So, meron tayong 749, meron tayong 749,000 na net income. Tapos, tanggalin natin yung preferred stock, no? Dividend na 45,000. Kasi alam nyo, sa stockholders equity, kasi common stockholders equity naman to, di ba? So, we are removing the preferred stockholder. So, in particular, the dividends. Okay? Kasi yung preferred stock is actually considered as a hybrid financing. So, when you see hybrid financing, it is a combination of the features of liabilities and a stock. So, kaya tinatanggal natin dito, no? So, we have now the 749 minus 45, and then we average again the common stockholders equity naman. So, saan na yan? So, ito yung kukunin natin. No? So, yan. So, yung average natin, then the answer is 30.70%. Okay, so market share, no? Ito ang madalas na tinitingnan ng mga investors, Jeffrey. No? Kasi this is how the company is perceived by the investors. No? So this is how the company is being perceived by the investors. Kaya nakikita natin dito yung earnings per share, which I of course explained a while ago. Then you have the price earnings ratio, which is computed as market price per share over EPS. No? So dito kasi sa PE ratio na to, the higher the PE ratio, the better. No? Ibig sabihin, that is the willingness of the investors to pay for the earnings per share of the company. Tapos meron tayong dividends payout kasi when you buy the stocks of the company, so some companies are paying dividends. So you have the dividends per share over earnings per share. But actually, this one can be computed also as dividends. Dividends paid divided by the net income. So pwede rin ganyan. No? Dividends payout, dividends paid over net income. So another formula is, of course, dividends per share over earnings per share. Ito mga dividend yield, hindi na masyado maano yan. Itong book value per share, ito yung nakikita natin sa financial statements. No? So doon sa financial statements, kunin lang natin shareholders equity along with the shares outstanding. So since sabi nila that the book value per share is the one way to compute for the intrinsic value of the stock. So when you see intrinsic value, we are referring to the true value of the stock. Okay, so example tayo ulit rito, financial ratios, no, under market value. We have the earnings per share. So for 2021, so meron tayong net income. Tapos meron tayong common shares outstanding na 140. Okay? So 280 divided by 140, it's 2. Tapos for 2021, dahil ito ay binigay naman na, no? So that's 15 divided by 2. Ito yun. Kaya ito ay 750. No? Kaya lang dito, itong treasury stock actually, no? They are actually deducted from the denominator. Dito. Kaya lang since dito ibinigay sa atin yung average, so it is already assumed that the treasury stock was already removed from the 140,000. But let's say they mention only a common shares outstanding, no? 140. Then you have to remove the 70,000. Huh? But since the one given is already the average, the assumption here is that the treasury stock has been removed. Okay, because in treasury stock, it's not already part of the common shares outstanding. Kumbaga, ito yung binabuyback natin eh, no? So they were issued before, and then the company, let's say, have the excess money, and they would like to reduce the circulation of stocks in the market, so they will buy back, no? So they will buy back the shares that they have in the market, then that becomes part of the treasury stock. So yung treasury stock does not earn any dividends. Okay, so the treasury stock does not earn any dividend. But the treasury stock can be reissued by the company, no? For additional funding. Okay, pwede lang i-reissue yan, ha? Okay, yung limitations natin ng ano, so one is based on the practices and methods in the application of accounting from one firm to another. Kasi alam nyo, pagdating sa mining, for example, sa banking, sa merchandising, magkakaiba ng practice yan. Kaya once you compare them, you cannot compare them because they belong to different industry. No? Although financial ratio has a predictive value, ratios are still static and a mere estimate of the future. So, which means na the financial ratios is not really exact, no? But they can be used as a basis, no, for a prediction. And normally we are using historical cost or the historical price of the company to predict. But they have a predictive value based on the past, ha? Tapos does not consider the effects of inflation kasi kung ano yung value na nasa statement natin, yun na yun. Hindi natin na-adjust yan for any inflation. And then number 4, firms whose activities are well diversified are too difficult to be identified to which industry the firm is classified. Kasi pagka sinasabi natin na conglomerate siya, no, conglomerate. When you see conglomerate, there are so many companies belonging to that conglomerate, but the industry is different, no? Magkakaiba. Halimbawa na lang LTG, no, yung Lusutan Group of Company. Meron dyan banking, meron dyan merchant manufacturing, ano pa ba meron sa kanya dyan? No, basta marami, no, marami yun, na mga small firms pa. So if you're going to compare, for example, si Ayala Group of Companies naman halimbawa against the Lusutan Group of Companies, hindi siya magiging comparable even if they are two big companies. Why? Because of the components of the companies within that conglomerate. Now, if you want to analyze them, then you have to separate, no? Dapat kung real estate lang yan, no? Total, meron naman real estate di si Lusutan, di ba? Yan yung Eton, no? So, Eton is the one owned by Lusutan. And for example, for the Ayala, you have the Ayala land, no? So, yun ang pwede siguro maging comparison. But not the holding company, no? So, kasi pagka holding company yan, more or less, that is already a conglomerate. So, yung comparison is not possible, ha? Okay. Oh, madami pa, no? Oh, ito paborito ko to sa Compre, no? Ito, kalalabas lang nito sa Compre. Binigay ko to sa Compre, no? Yung free cash flow. Tapos ito pa, no? to be honest with you, nagbigay ako ng compre, I tried to, I gave a quiz or a question about free cash flow at saka statement of cash flow. Sabi ko, what's the difference between free cash flow and statement of cash flow? Alam niyo, very few got it correctly. Now, very few got it correctly. Kaya lang, binigyan ko pa rin ng points. Kahit na hindi tumama yung kanina sagot, binibigyan ko pa rin ng points. Kaya pagdating sa compre, huwag kayong mag-leave ng blank. Ha? Kasi pagka nag-leave kayo ng blank, automatic zero yan. But if you answered something, kahit na mali pa yon, you will get points for that. Ha? So, yun ang technique din sa compre. Ha? Okay, so, diba, dito, ano ba yung free cash flow na tinatawag natin? Now, when you see free cash flow, this is already free of all the obligations of the company. So, meaning, these are cash that is already available for investment or for the declaration of dividends. So, after considering yung CAPEX, which is the capital expenditures, and the changes in net working capital, no? And then take note here, no, that the current liabilities do not include the short-term interest-bearing liabilities. Hindi kasama yung short-term interest-bearing liabilities. Bakit? Kasi yung short-term interest-bearing liabilities, they are considered part of financing. Okay? They are considered part of financing. So the reason why we are removing them. Again, when you see free cash flow, so that is the available cash produced by the company from its operating activities after considering, no, yung mga yan. Okay? And like what I said, they are already available. No? They are available for payments of dividends without affecting your operations. And then they are free for investing. Okay? Example tayo. Ako, matatapos tayo alas 12. Wala pa tayong break, ano? Sorry. Sorry, ha? Ay, nako. Ako nga, sakit na nalamunan ko. Okay, so, example tayo, no? Unlimited Publishing recently reported 10,750 of sales, 5,500 of operating costs other than depreciation, and 1,250 of depreciation. So the company had 3,500 of bonds that carry a 6.25% interest rate, and its federal plus state income tax rate was 35%. So during the year, the firm had expenditures on fixed assets and net operating working capital that totaled 1,550. No? So the expenditures were necessary for it to sustain operations and generate future sales and cash flow. So what is the free cash flow? Okay, so nandito tayo, no? So ito na yung parang mga information na binigay sa atin. So this is how you compute for the free cash flow. So we have the EBIT, then times 1 minus T. The T there is tax. EBIT is the earnings before interest and taxes, plus the depreciation and amortization, then minus the CAPEX, and then the changes in net operating working capital. So for the EBIT, ito na yung computation natin, no? We have sales, we have operating costs, excluding depreciation and then depreciation, so we have 4,000. And then we have the 1 minus T, the 35% is the tax rate. Then plus 1,250, na sinabi rin sa atin yung CAPEX dito. Yung CAPEX ito, no? So yun siya, no? So yung CAPEX natin, yung 1,250, ito lang siya. So ito to. And then we have the 1,550, which is given to us, no? So meaning the free cash flow is 2,300 pesos. So the 2,300 is the one, no, that can be issued as cash dividend, no, without affecting the operations of the company. And then that can be also used to invest, no, without affecting your operations. Anong pagkakaiba niya? Kasi sa statement of cash flow, that only shows the increase or decrease in cash, no, for the particular period. Yun lang yung cash, no, statement of cash flow na yun. Pinapakita lang sa atin yung increase and decrease of cash and what are the sources and uses of cash. But when it comes to free cash flow, ito naman very specific. This is the amount that you can declare as dividend, and this is the amount that you can use to invest in other activities without affecting your operations. No? So yun ang pagkakaiba niya. Now let's go to the market value added. No? So yung market value added, to make it short, no? Kasi when we do the accounting part, it is always based on historical cost. So anong nangyayari, nakukuha lang natin yung book value, now which is based on historical cost. But we do not know how much is really added based on the market. No? Kaya tinawag siyang market value added. No? So yung formula natin dyan, practically is outstanding shares times the difference of market value of the stock minus the book value of the stock. Remember, the book value of the stock is coming from the financial statement of the company. No? So yan yan. Na? So example tayo rito. So we have ABC Corporation has 300 billion of common equity with 10 million shares of common stock outstanding. So if ABC's market value added is 162 million, actually dito, binigay na sa atin yung 162 million na market value added. No? Andito na siya. So anyway, we have the other way to compute for that. So what is the company's stock price? So binago lang niya, binaliktad lang niya, no? So dito binigay na sa atin yung market value added actually. Then we have the stock price times 10,000 shares minus 300 billion. So ito yung 300 billion, ito. Then the number of shares is given, 10. So all we have to do is of course, transfer lang naman natin yung 162,000 doon. No? Tapos, para makuha lang natin yung stock price. So, 46.20 lumalabas. No? Ano pa ba? But actually, dito sa problem na to binigay sa atin yung market value. Dapat ito yung nahanap natin. Dito sa problem lang na to, no? Binigay sa atin yung market value, hinahanap natin yung stock price. No? Kaya, ano yan? Sandali para makita natin. Kaya baling pag-compute lang naman ito. So ito, i-add lang natin dun sa 300,000 at 300 million and then we divide by 10 million. And we will get the 46.20. No? But actually, dapat yung problem, ito ang hinahanap natin. Ha? Okay, next. Ito yung last. Economic value added. No? So ano man yung economic value added na tinatawag natin? Now, for the economic value added, this is how the accountants, this is how the economists compute for the true value or net income of the company. Kaya yung mga accountants at saka economists, nagtatalo sila dito. No? Kasi the accountants, they compute for the net income based on the traditional way of computing it. Ano ba yung traditional way? Yung traditional way natin kasi ganito. Na meron tayong sales, tapos meron tayong cost of goods sold, may gross profit, tapos operating expenses, tapos net income. No? So ganyan mag-compute yung accountant. Sales minus cost of goods sold minus gross profit, sales minus cost of goods sold equal to gross profit minus operating expenses, then you have the net income. Yan na mag-compute ang accountant. But the economist, they have different way of computing it. Ang sinasabi nila, dapat yung net income or value added to the owner should be more than the cost of the investment made by the owner. Which I agree also, no? Kasi dito sa pinakita ko kanina, the traditional net income ng company, that is how it is being computed for the net income. Pero ang concern naman ng economist, it should be different. Kasi if you invested something, no, sabi ganun ng economist na to, the return should be more than on the cost of your investment. Yun dapat ang basis kung mayroong market value added. Ang net income, walang market value added. It is possible that there can be a market value added, but there is also a possibility that there is no. So the correct way to compute for that is that there should be a market value added, and that is by computing or that the EBIT, itong part na to, should be more than the cost, the return on the cost of capital of your investment. Okay, ganito yung formula niya, no? Total invested capital, ito yung required return mo. Tapos dapat, pagka binawas natin dito, positive, para may economic value added na tinatawag, no? So example tayo, so Cronus Incorporated recently reported the following information. So net income 600,000, tax rate 40%, interest expense 200, and then invested capital 9, and then tax, after tax cost of capital 10. So what is the company's EVA? So dito kasi binigay sa atin 600,000 na net income. And kailangan natin is the EBIT. Diba? Kailangan natin EBIT. Now to compute for the EBIT, now we have to recompute for this one. So 600,000 divided by 1 minus 0.40. So meaning that is the earnings before tax. No? Tapos pagka dinagdag natin yung interest expense, that becomes your EBIT. Okay? So now we can now compute for the EVA. Okay, explain ko muna sa inyo to, no? Mukhang nakasimangot kayo, paano makukuha yung mga ha? So ipakita natin muna sa Excel kung paano yun, ha? Tanggalin natin to. Yan. So dito meron tayong EBIT. So actually this one is earnings before interest and taxes. So we will have the earnings earnings before mali. Tapos ito interest expense. Tapos meron tayong earnings before tax. And we have the tax. Ito yung net income natin. Okay? So ganyan yung pag-compute, no? So sales, cost of goods sold minus gross profit, operating expenses. Then you have the earnings before interest and taxes. Then you deduct the interest expense. Then you have the earnings before tax. Then the less tax. Then you have the net income. Okay? So lagyan natin ng mga less to para matandaan nyo. Yan, no? Ganyan siya, no? Okay, dito, kasi binigay rito yung net income no? Net income. So binalik lang natin yung mga kumbaga kung gagamitin natin yung Excel, ganito siya, no? Conversion tax rate, 200,000. Kumbaga ganito siya. Binigay sa atin 600,000, no? Para makita niyo kung paano pinuputa. So, sabi niya rito, 40% ito. Tama ba ako? Yeah. Ang tax rate is 40%. Okay. 600,000 na kita. Okay, so ganyan. So, ibig sabihin nun, ito ay 40%. So, ito ay 100% lalabas. Ito ay 60%. Ibig sabihin nun, ito ay 1 million. Diba? So, 600,000 divided by 60%. So, this is 1 million. Ang interest expense natin, 200,000. So, adding these two, so ibig sabihin, yung earnings before interest and taxes natin is 1 million too. Gets nyo? Ha? Okay, pagdating dito, ito rin yun. Okay? Now, since we already know the EBIT, so yung EBIT times 1 minus T, then ang tax natin is 40%. Ang neto na lang niya is 720,000. Okay? And then we have the WCC times total invested capital. Kasi 10% times 9,900,000. So we have now the difference. Now 720,000 minus 900,000. So this is negative 180,000. So meaning there is no economic value added to the company. No? Kahit na nagkaroon pa siya ng net income na 600,000, but there is no economic value added to the owners. And what the economists are saying, what is important is that this EVA should be positive to have an economic value to the company. Now, if the economic value added is negative, then there's no added value to the company. Hindi dapat tinitingnan lang yung net income. Okay? That's the end. No? Salamat. Makapag-take tayo ng lunch. Ha? So, at makapag-break din muna kayo. So, i-cut ko muna yung ating Cut na ba yun? Nako,